My question, Janine, is Andrew Tate, is he part of the White Dove Society? Juan dropped that phrase to me a few weeks ago, and I've been looking into it ever since, because I think it's something behind the scenes for humanity that is good.
Wow. I got a soft yes on it.
Okay.
So that's a soft yes. So there's more to it. So I don't know what more to it. Maybe he's not maybe it's not in an official way or something, but there's certainly signaling with his. It's like there's no coincidences, like Q says. So even the fact that his name comes to that, I feel like they would welcome him, but he may not be officially a member, but he's sort of unofficially a member, just like a lot of people watching are unofficially white hats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Any questions on that, Matt, or Andrew Tate, or thoughts? Like, both you and me follow him on Twitter. Any thoughts on Andrew and his situation?
It's an interesting one, because I've now got to a point where if the mainstream media start attacking you, I automatically go, oh, he must be saying something true then that they don't like. That's kind of my default position now. So when they've really gone for him over the last few weeks, it's kind of made me think, oh, because I'm very much of the opinion that, you know, I had this conversation with my wife not long ago. She said to me, oh, do you like Andrew Tate? And I said, well, I don't really know the guy, so I can't tell you whether I like him or not. But there's a lot of things that he says that I like and I agree with. And there are other things he says that I don't like and I don't agree with. So how do you answer that? How do you answer it if you like somebody or not, where sometimes you disagree, you agree with them, sometimes you don't? And I don't think it's a question really that needs to be asked, because I don't think you'll find two people on this planet of however many billion we are with the same views on every single subject. So if your basis for liking somebody is you agree with everything they say, you're never going to like anyone on this planet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So it's a strange one. I mean, I'd never heard of him up until about 3 months ago, I'll be honest with you. I hadn't come across him before then. I don't spend a lot of time on a lot of other social media channels apart from Getter, and I've been on Twitter for about 10 years as well. So he wasn't really on my radar, but a lot of the things he says, I think there's a lot of truth in it.
Excellent. Janine, do you have any other thoughts, any other downloads on that in regards to the White Dove Society, Andrew Tate, or maybe others that we're thinking about right now?
Well, yesterday, I believe it was on the Mark Atwood show, we looked into, was he a white hat?
Yes.
And we thought that he was asked by them to go down, like to be shown, like they let the mainstream media go after him. It feels like it's orchestrated, and it's orchestrated by the white hats, and he's in on it, and his name will be cleared. That's what I got. And it's because they want to bring your attention to how the mainstream media does things, and how also about the things that they're accusing him of. They need that to come out. So this is they got a reason. He's part of the movie.
Got it. Interesting as well, because the word white dove is 111, which is perfection. That's New York. It's computer. You know, you think of this computer simulation perhaps that we're in, but it's also illusion as well. Now, illusionists don't necessarily need to be bad. They can also be good. And I think from what you're saying there, that is all part of the movie, that the white hats, the good guys, have allowed Andrew to play this role out in the movie. And perhaps, like you say, it's not quite as it seems, and his name will be cleared later. So he predicted over the last few months, like Matt said, Matt started following 3 months ago. I probably saw him, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months ago, but I didn't know who he was before. But he just really blossomed on the internet, kind of everywhere, virally, for a purpose, I believe, as you're alluding to. So he predicted that there's 3 stages, the way that these people work. First of all, they try and censor you, which happened to him. Then they charge you with a crime, which seems to be the process of going through now. And then the third one is is you're out. It's interesting. Look, it's three. There's three, which is 111, which is illusion, which is perfection, which is Andrew Tate, which is White Dove. And the third part is that he says they kill you. They take, you're gone. Are we going to see in the movie, is the plan for him to exit, i.e., fake his death and go into witness protection? Or does that look like a possibility for him?
Okay, I would say they're trying to show you what the bad guys do, just like you're kind of laying out. And the fact that he told us ahead of time, so that's the black hats. Are we on YouTube? So I got to be really careful with
Yeah,
the
we're
words.
on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll be careful. Okay,
Yeah.
and then this, so there are all kinds of ways that they're showing what these guys do, and then him literally saying it. That makes a lot of sense. I think it's a big possibility, but things as they go down might happen in the situation that's going on, that's like a spiritual situation. And it starts with a W, the word I want to say after that. And it has 3 letters and it ends in an R. Okay, so that situation, he's part of showing how it all works here, but it might not get to, because that 2 of Swords, it might not have to get to they take him out or pretend to.
Okay. I think we're okay to say that, yeah, WAR, yeah. Okay, that global situation, physically and spiritually. Okay, thank you. I'm wondering if we can maybe, unless you had any other comments on that, Matt, I was wondering if we could shift gears, but if you had any more thoughts or questions for Janine about that, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions I perhaps had was about something that was happening here in the UK. I don't know if Janine is aware, but there's an MP that's been speaking out in Parliament about the Andrew Bridgen, and he has spoken out quite vocally over the last few weeks, and all of a sudden the mainstream media have gone for him, and the Tory party, the Conservative Party over here in the UK, have just suspended him from the party. And I didn't know if there was any kind of way of seeing how genuine or not Andrew Bridgen was.
Okay, so have a look. I get him genuine.
Yeah, I'm good, because that was my thoughts.
Yeah, I get him genuine, and he knows some of what we're talking about, but he actually came to this organically. So he's actually a real human who actually figured this out, and nobody asked him to come on board. He went on board all on his own.
Yeah.
That makes him one of my heroes. Just like there's a woman in Alberta where I live doing the same thing. She's a politician, and she's going after all the lies and the media. So see that in the background, that feels like the white hats are watching and protective, but they're keeping in the background with that person. So they didn't necessarily literally come and say, would you do this? He's actually just joined in because he's a good person. Yeah. So that looks good. That looks really good on him.
Excellent.
Brilliant. So obviously Matt's a former soccer player, football player, a world-class one. So I advise anyone that hasn't seen his goals, best Letitia goals, go on YouTube and enjoy those, because Matt Letitia in numbers is 170, but also football artist is 170, and Matt was definitely an artist with the ball.
That was a long time ago now. Those pictures are quite blurry.
It's like from another dimension, another timeline, yeah. But nevertheless, Matt was fantastic, and he's a player that could get anybody into the sport. If you didn't really resonate with it before, watching a great artist at the top of their game, someone like Matt would get you into it. So, but I wanted to ask the question and have the discussion about sport. Sport is 88, Trump is 88, purple is 88. So I've got a few codes here with this, 88 miles per hour, Back to the Future, etc. Actually, me and Matt, when we did our last show a few weeks ago, he'd not really seen Back to the Future, or maybe not for a long time. But we talked about the flux capacitor 182, and all of a sudden the next day it came on the TV and he saw it, and then I saw it, and then Matt pocket dialed me. I said, Matt, Back to the Future's on. It's like, I know, I saw it. So, but anyway, so it was all meant to be. But my question is about sport, and I'm wondering how far we can maybe go with it, Matt. And I'll leave you your poetic license to go as far or deeper or not so into it if you want. A lot of people think that a lot of things in sport can be manipulated, fixed. There can be some dodgy things happening in it, maybe just physically your boots on the ground, but maybe at a higher level as well with trickery and magic and things like that. Can we look at the cards on that, Janine, and just see what is the case with sport, in particular football, soccer?
I'd say that was the case for a lot of years, but this card says that's ended, or in a lot of areas it's ended. Tens are ending and judgment. So people have been brought to justice and or rounded up on the back channels, just like we know they did in Hollywood. Here was the card underneath the roundup. So underneath the roundup is Mr. T and the White Hats card. So that's interesting. Maybe the alliance, or what some people call the SOC, or energies that are working on the behalf of humanity. Thank goodness. Okay. It feels like that's been the case in the past. Maybe not every single sports event was manipulated, but some of them were and some of them weren't, is what I get. And a lot of people were left out of the loop on it. This card says, or they just turned a blind eye. So the higher ups might have turned a blind eye to some manipulation at the very top. Okay, so it might not have trickled all the way down to people literally playing it. I'm not sure how many of those people know if their game was manipulated or not. And this card says, so again, some of them were and some of them weren't, not all of them. So they utilize certain sports and certain games is what I get. And it's been, now it's been, they're cleaning it up, let's say, on the back channels.
Thank you. Matt, any thoughts or questions about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought that football was being used after we'd gone into lockdown the first time, and you know, people were starting to get a little bit grumpy about not being allowed out and things. And I think Premier League football was used because they got that back pretty quickly, got the season underway, and it seemed to me like it was being used as a method to keep the populace entertained while we sat in our houses doing very little. That was my thoughts on it. And it's the first time really it's ever occurred to me that they're using my sport. I never ever got that feeling in 17 years as a professional, which was really strange. But in June or July, I think it was, of 2020, when they got it back on, they were in such a rush trying really hard to get it back on. I thought, well, why just this? You know, and it is because it was so popular, and it was a way to keep people entertained and keep them in their houses away from each other.
Bread and circuses. We just said it together. Bread and circuses, indeed. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Any more on that, Janine? Any other cards come up on that? Delving into that further.
2 and ace. Okay, so it'll all come out. So even though not all games were rigged, et cetera, but some were and some weren't with that. And it keeps feeling like about half. So that's interesting. And then this ace. So they're waiting to divulge that, but it'll come out. That's going to be part of the disclosure. So that'll be fairly shocking. I mean, think about how it's a perfect venue to manipulate. I went to even a hockey game in Calgary, and I couldn't believe, first of all, the team's called the Calgary Flames. And every time, you know, in between plays and et cetera, they put on these flames, and it all looked so demonic all of a sudden. I mean, it sounds corny, but I'm telling you, when I sat there, I realized they're unconsciously doing some programming here in the background with what was going on the big screens all around that everybody was staring at. And like if you were in a faraway seat and you couldn't see what was going on, you'd stare up at these screens, and the things they were flashing on there, it was incredible. Also, they had all kinds of pharmaceutical companies advertised, and this was right in the middle of the big plan and endemic, right? So we were right in the middle of it, and it was propaganda nonstop from what I could see. So it may not literally be the games, but it could actually be the advertising and what goes on when you're watching a game.
Wow, interesting. Matt, I'm wondering, can we go into this, but we don't have to. So in terms of, how would I say this? MASON and football, can we go into that, or we don't have to?
I don't know a huge amount about it. I've read that the Football Association was formed by a group of the MASONs.
Okay.
But I have no further knowledge apart from that. Okay,
interesting. Interesting actually. I can say his name. So Mason Mount is a player for Chelsea and for England, and the word Mount is football 83. So it's quite interesting that there's those two things, and it's quite prevalent. He's a Chelsea player, and
I know that a few years ago they formed their first Footballers Lodge.
Okay, yeah. Can you tell us more about that?
I can't, because I was asked to join it and declined politely.
Got you. Excellent.
Not the first time I've been asked to join that society, and I declined both times and wouldn't entertain that.
Brilliant.
What are your thoughts, Janine, on that particular? Did I make a good decision?
Let's have a look. Yes, so that's a big yes. And then there's a soft yes. So there's even in the future, I feel like that's going to also be exposed. So you being in that could have exposed you in a negative way. You might have been caught up in their little net. Do you know what I mean? So they don't start out, they indoctrinate you slowly. So this card would be it would just be the first level of, like, so if you're a newbie at that group, you know what I mean? You're not going to know, maybe even for some time, that as you go up the ladder there, things get really interesting. And they probably brainwash people in their meetings somehow. Do you know what I mean? Right. So with all the way they do it, they take their time. So it looks like not right at first. It wouldn't have hit you right in the first meeting or anything, but down the road, because this card says that would have been a first level that would have brought you right up to the things we've been discovering, in the world and how we're manipulated. That would definitely bring you a lot closer to actually seeing right into how they do things. So a big yes on you made the right decision.
Any particular questions for Janine, Matt? It could be about anything. It could be, off-world spiritual stuff, or I know you had an experience with a reader back in Scottsdale. Scottsdale is 118, the awakening, the storm, to do with your daughter. So I know you had an experience many years ago with a reader. But any particular any questions you got for Janine that you'd like to have a look at and know some answers about?
I guess like anybody. I mean, can you see anything in my future that is of a danger to me at all?
So something you did or some direction you went. So that's moving out of troubled waters. Tarot cards with swords are thoughts and words. So they're the element of air. So in your thoughts and words and what you were saying and putting out there, you moved yourself out of troubled water, okay, about 3 years ago. So something you started moving, a direction you went in about 3 years ago really changed potential for danger. You could have been in danger. And because you made that decision, so that's I don't know exactly what you did or how you shifted, but there was some kind of shift, and it could have even been an intellectual shift or a verbal shift or both. Okay, so this it caused you to do something to the positive, and that's a spiritual positive. So your soul is really happy you did that. Okay, and it changed forever. Your timeline changed at that moment, or time when you made those decisions, and you went a completely different direction. But had you not, I think you could have been there could have been a possibility here of some kind of dangerous situation you would have went into without even realizing it. So the Seven of Swords is a strategy. You could have been tricked or manipulated into something had you not really changed course at that time. So I don't know what it was. So because of that, you got some good years ahead of you. And this is a karmic and just card. It's karmic and just that you're speaking out, coming from where you come from and the life you've led and what you've done. It's karmic and just, and you're asked to spiritually speak out for maybe even shine some light on. So a lot of people are curious about footballers, of course. Is that okay to call you that?
Yep.
Or ex-footballers, or people that have been in that world. People are going to want to know, even if you weren't privy to some of the stuff that went on, they're going to want to know there's a red-pilled a person who's been in that world. That's going to be really powerful. So they're going to utilize, they being, I think, the spirit world at this point, is going to utilize your voice in the future, and it already probably has.
That's good to know.
Wow. Does any of that resonate with you, Matt?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, 3 years ago was just when we first started to hear about the COVID.
Yeah.
And that was when, yeah, I really felt a shift in me as a person, where I wasn't willing to just keep going along with the mainstream narrative, and I was, and I don't know what, and again, I don't know what made me do it, but I just felt this compulsion that I had to say something. I could see something was not right, and I couldn't help myself. I couldn't stop myself. It was impossible, and I knew certainly at the start that it was going to have an effect on the people around me, and that was the hardest thing. I'm big enough and ugly enough to take all the flack that came with it, and so I was prepared for that, and I've always been prepared for that. I still am. But the hardest bit was seeing my family suffer because of what I was speaking about. But it was really odd. You know, my family mean everything to me, but I didn't feel like I could stop speaking, even though I knew it was going to come at a bit of a price to the people around me, which is odd because I adore my family. But yet there was something bigger inside of me that was saying, you have to say something. If that makes sense.
That does. Yeah, that really does. Janine, you talked about, thanks so much for sharing that, Matt. You talked about Matt changed a timeline. So timeline is 87, which is truth, which is justice. It's Stella, it's Project, it's Junior as in JFK, JR. But timelines is 106, which is red pilling. And that's what Matt's been doing. That's what I've been doing. That's what you've been doing. And a whole bunch of us, you know, either, and the audience as well, whether they've been, you know, telling friends and sending tweets or text messages to each other. We've all been red pilling. So we've changed timelines. But the word change is 38, which is gold, which is balance. And Matt had fantastic balance as a gifted, God-given gifted footballer. But
I'm also a Libra and a very balanced person.
There you go. I didn't even know that. There you go.
Awesome.
But change timelines comes to 144, and you've got the 144,000, and people talk about that being a frequency, but also the two words digital soldier is 144, and that's what Matt did. That's, Matt had this change in his life, like a lot of us, 3 years ago, and just felt he had to step up. And I felt the same thing in May of 2020. I felt it for about 2 months. I got my download on numbers literally in about, I don't know, 3 weeks. Like 3 PhDs in numbers just came to me at the beginning of lockdown. And I just felt for about 2 months I needed to say something, and eventually I did. And that was end of May, third week in May of 2020. And then I connected with Chat Kids and Charlie and others, and in the Red Squirrels here in the UK. But yeah, so I can totally resonate with that feeling. Interestingly enough as well, Matt, you asked about Future. So Future is 91, which is POTUS, which is Space Force. But if you do Matt Letitia Future, it comes to 261. 261 is really important. It's the United States of America. This sounds a bit wacky, but me and Janine, and I don't know how you feel about that, but we feel that people like JFK originally, that wasn't quite what was portrayed on the TV and globally to people. But that 261 number is really important because it's November 22nd. So the events of JFK, he went into witness protection. August 31st, Princess Diana. So August 31st is 261. That's Princess Diana. That's the date she went into protection. Terminator 2 talks about Judgment Day, August 29th. August 29th is also 261. The United States of America is 261. And 261 is also best is yet to come event. So President Trump talks about the best is yet to come, and that comes to 228. And I feel like that could perhaps be a year. And that's it's also the dove is yet to come, 228. People talk about the New Jerusalem being the dove, this starship basically kind of, conjoining with the earth and changing everything for, up an upgrade really of humanity and the earth. But if you do 261, that comes to best is yet to come event. Again, alluding to this 228, but Matt Letitia Future is also 261. So I'm really pleased that Janine said you've got a lot of years left, and that you'll be you'll continue to be a warrior for the truth. Could we, maybe there's some questions on that, but after maybe we can look at the thing about the best is yet to come in 228, what that is. Should we look at that one? Did you have any comments on that, Matt, at all, or questions?
No, nothing on that specific subject, mate.
Okay. Can we look at?
I was. Oh yeah, no.
No, go on, Matt.
No, I realised what we were on, so I can't ask that question. Or do I just avoid that word?
Yeah.
Yeah, just avoid the word. Yeah.
I will substitute the word for king. So over the last few weeks, the military have been implicated in the kings, and I wanted to know. I'm curious as to why that has suddenly come into the public limelight, and it almost looks like they're trying to take the blame off of certain companies that have produced these things. So I'm curious about that.
I like to call them the products.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now, Tom, are we still looking at that 2028 question you had first? Or we want to?
Yeah. If we could.
Okay, we'll start there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to that other one.
Yeah.
So the best is yet to come, 228.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm getting more of an immediacy to the best is yet to come.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and it has to do with money system coming in that's gold. That's a
Okay.
gold. That's like gold and abundance. So some kind of abundance. Some people are expecting like a shift around some receiving monies back for stolen monies over thousands of years, enslaved over thousands of years. And they call it lots of names, but Jasara Nasara is one of them. I don't call it that name because I think it's a version of that was created by this team that we call the Alliance, the White Hats, and Trump's at the head of. I think Trump had a lot to do with it, designing it. I don't think it's exactly Jasara Nasara, but that's just whenever I ask about it, looks like it's a unique version of that. Okay, so I feel like that's coming sooner. Okay, so I don't know why so this card indicates what you asked, which is 2028. There's a hidden meaning to 2028. See that sword underneath that guy? There's something hidden that's not going to reveal itself yet. So what that really means hasn't been revealed yet. And it's not ready to be revealed is what I'm getting.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that is, but I think the best is yet to come is actually what they're referring to, something more immediate. And that's coming right. I'm thinking anytime now. Great.
Could we look further at that hidden meaning? So if you do the best is yet to come, it's 228, but it's also the dove is yet to come, 228. Is there a connection between the dove, the New Jerusalem, the best is yet to come?
Okay. It says you have to wait for that.
Okay.
That's the second way that it wants. Now it's getting louder because it's a major arcana. So no, you'll wait to be enlightened. That you're gonna have to wait. There's that you'll be enlightened on that. See how that he's in a yoga position, so he puts himself in a difficult position to become enlightened. Okay, we'll become enlightened about that, even though it's difficult not to know right now.
Okay. Should I ease off talking about this then in the future, or just or still put it out a little bit? What do you think?
You might find that some of the ideas around it are off, and it could be in a totally different direction than some of the ideas you have around it. So yeah, I would say just say it in a more general sense, talk about it. I think there's way more to it, or there's some kind of part that's missing that wants to be revealed later, and there's some reason why that's important.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Matt, yes, Matt's question.
Yeah. So we want to know about the products, and are you asking, Matt, when is that going to be public as they are, or what are you asking?
No, I'm asking over the last few weeks. There have been people saying that this has been a military operation and not a pharmaceutical operation. And I wanted to know if what part of disclosure is that? Is that part of, the big disclosure?
I get it as somebody in charge of the money system, more like wanting to take out a populous part of the population. So it's been hidden. Maybe they were using the military, but that sounds like the bankers to me. That sounds like the elites. That sounds like the M word we were talking about earlier. That sounds like the dark hats or otherwise known as the cult faction of those guys. So there's the deep state, that's the more government faction. They were just the minions putting this out there. Maybe they all bought the pharmaceutical companies to do their role in it because they're obviously involved. And foolishly, because as if people aren't going to figure that out. But I always found that this was pushed out earlier because it got discovered. So I've been looking at this for years, really in depth on so many shows. And I'll just sort of talk about a little bit what I've been getting is that, so that upper elite, and that includes also, I got this as maybe queens and kings. So the elites in the world of the royals, in particular, the British royals. So they had a lot to do with it. And that's why they originally called it the corona, which of course is crown. Okay, so I think, and Juan O'Savin talks a lot about that. He leads everything back to the British royals, actually. And why in 2017, was it, or 2018? I can't remember. Trump went around to and likely capitulated the royal family. Publicly capitulated a whole bunch of governments. And I think they've been literally rolling out a movie ever since. I think most of the governments in the world are puppeted, and they're showing you. So the good guys, we'll just call them that, alliance, and maybe with technology that's otherworldly and or dimensionally and or looks into the future, let's say. Right. I know it sounds wild, but that's what I get. So they saw this coming. And with the help of even upper echelon, like maybe even like old soul, future human selves guiding, so that would be the alliance part of the White Hats, they took down a lot of these operations. They also pushed out the whole situation of the illness sooner than it was going to be. So they kind of messed it up for those bad guys, right? So they made them have to play out their plan way faster and before they were really ready, which is why it really failed. So it's literally failed in so many different ways. These guys have completely exposed themselves, but that was the doing of the back channels that have been ready to pounce on these guys for a long time and took the opportunity. So it's very complicated, in my opinion. I don't think any of we only know we're scratching the surface of it. The operation is so deep, but I think all governments at this point are puppeted.
That would lead me on to my next question, actually, because I was going to ask you about Rishi Sunak. What does his numbers come to, Tom?
You know what? I pay so little attention to him. I've never done them, Matt.
Yes, he's a guy who really, to me, just doesn't come across as genuine in any way, shape, or form. He's just so wooden, and he almost doesn't.
UK Prime Minister, isn't he?
Yeah, UK Prime Minister, and he didn't address to the nation. And honestly, it's so wooden and so lacking in any kind of charisma or personality or empathy. It was shocking. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on him.
So the real ruler of the UK are, this is my old soul card, my galactic helper card, otherwise known as the Alliance. And there's a military backing them up. That's my good military. So the UK is not ruled by that person. And this 10 says that person's just a facade. So the 10 of Cups, when it's aspected in certain ways, and it was aspected in certain ways, so it's not necessarily well aspected here. I go to the other, like there's lots of meanings of it, can be a really great card, but it can also be a facade. So these guys are pretending, it's a pretendency. So he's just a bad actor, obviously, literally a bad actor. That's why he couldn't pull off, or maybe they asked him to be like that. So they're trying to wake up in levels. So normal population needs to see just how unbelievably dysfunctional their governments are, and they've allowed it. We've allowed it. We've let these guys, we're not calling them out. Like we try to call them out, and then the mainstream media covers it all up. They're trying to show on every level how every system is failing humanity, and it's enslaved us, and it's in on the take. So they're outing them at every level, and that's what I think they're doing with, like, by putting really lame people in there saying really lame things. They're trying to go, look at what you're okay with. You okay with this? Like, you should see what Canadians, unbelievable supposed prime ministers up to. It's unbelievable that humans haven't literally gone in there, but I'm not going to say what I was going to say there because we're on YouTube. You know what I mean? And done something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Atwood called him Roland Rat yesterday. which made me laugh. I hadn't thought of that, but
Yeah.
I think if is Rishi, so RISHISUNAK, is that right?
Yeah,
Matt, or is
yeah,
it?
that's right. Yeah.
That's 120. That's 129 Judgment Day, actually. Which I mentioned, I don't know, 10 minutes ago. So that's an interesting one. I've got a question. I wanted to ask the cards, Janine. I wanted to ask about Matt. If you're okay with me asking this, Matt, I wanted to know more about who Matt has been throughout time, because we're at the precipice of the biggest thing in human history, the change into a better world. And Matt's one of the major well-known digital soldiers because of who he was before and what influence and power he has to influence and shine the light on things for people. So he was obviously a warrior in the past, but can we have a look at the cards and see who Matt was in past lives?
Well, it might have been lots of people, but the cards will usually pick up on, when you ask a question like that, something that's relevant to the lifetime you're living now, something that led directly to it. That's usually the lifetime you'll pick up on with cards. Because I think we live multiple lifetimes. Well, you're definitely right that he was been a warrior. So you've been a warrior for truths in so many ways. Okay. But also there's a bit of a magician in this guy and a incredible mind. So this guy's psychologically a genius, incredibly, like a bit of a, what's the other word? Not magician, but
wizard.
It's wizard. Yeah, this guy's a wizard, and a wizard of so alchemy is not foreign to yourself, Matt, according to this card, in your soul. So you understand the world is maybe a bit of an illusion more than other people do, and that we create our own reality and stuff like that. So you have that ability to understand. Now, are you also quite mathematical?
Very.
Yeah, so this guy can be a mind like that, where he understands more the higher properties of and the spiritual values of math. So taking it all the way to how magic's created, which math is equals, I think, magic, right? In a way. Yeah. So
magic,
numbers,
math,
even
yeah.
you could even go numbers. Yeah. So you're like, and very balanced. He's been I hope you don't mind me talking about you in the third person, Matt, male and female in lifetimes, and understands energetically. So most of us have, actually, but very few souls, if they're old souls, have lived their whole lifetimes in one, sort of chosen way to present, male or female. And you've been both. So that creates a lot of balance in your energy, also very diplomatic. So you understand diplomacy on a really deep level, which is also very Libran, you know what I mean? Okay. And now we've got an ace. So you agreed to come this time to use all of those, to utilize all of those. When you woke up that 3 years ago, and I'm sure you were awake long before that, but when it clicked that, okay, I got to do this, it was like your mission clicked on. And a lot of people felt that way, a lot of digital soldiers, and we came here for that. You came, the big part of everything you did led up to that moment. So even footballing, and I'm not saying it wasn't really important, because it gave you the clout now you need. So they're utilizing your soul, I guess, and the higher universe is utilizing all of that you did to now put you forward, or you've agreed to do that. So yeah, you're doing exactly what you came here to do.
Thank you.
Wow. Any thoughts on that, Matt?
It's really interesting that the math thing came up, because that was kind of the only other thing I was any good at school apart from sport. And so when you said about maths, and I've noticed actually that a lot of very talented footballers are actually pretty good at maths as well. And I don't know if there's some kind of correlation there, that needs mathematics. And if you're saying that, most very good footballers are described as magical, and, the wizard of the dribble and all that kind of stuff. And then you're saying there that maths is big. That all kind of ties together quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
It does. I got some, unless you had another card on that, Janine, I got some numbers that popped up there with Matt. So,
No, go ahead.
So math. Math plus football is 125, which is time travel. It's John Kennedy, it's Dark to Light. Magician is 57, which is England. Matt played proudly for England. England, the English flag comes up in some of the cards that we've already seen today. But that comes to 182. So if you say it we're primarily a US audience, and they call it math. So if you do football plus math plus magician, that comes to 182, comes to the flux capacitor. And then we spoke about the magician, about the wizard. Wizard is 81, which is tower card. That comes to 263. 263 actually comes to God eternal within the body, something that Greg Braden teaches about the code and the DNA. Juan was alluding to that just a few days ago, but I've known that number for a while. Michael Jacob has done a show with Greg Braden, and Greg, I'd encourage people to look at Greg's work. But also, if you do 20, so just going back to this number that I've been looking at, 2028, that comes to 263 as well. God eternal within the body. It comes to football plus math plus magician plus wizard, 263. God eternal within the body. So, yeah, past lifetimes, and a warrior, and like I said before, Matt was a magician with the ball. He could walk past people with the ball, and they couldn't get it off of him. That's how good he was. He could slow everything. It's like the Matrix. It's like Neo in the Matrix. He could just slow everything down and just be like, oh, boom, 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 and then people are like, what happened there? It's like, oh, it's in the back of the net, So, yeah, just a true artist.
Thank you, mate. Well, I've got to get it. I'm going to have to get going, mate. Apologies, but
that's all right, Matt. Thank you. It was great having you on the show. Appreciate all the work you're doing. I'll see you soon. I'm seeing you next week, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see you next week. And lovely to meet you, Janine.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too, Matt.
You take care.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. God bless.
Cheers, Tom.
So, Janine, we've got just a few minutes left. Are there any things that you wanted to look at, things currently right now in the global situation that might be worth having a look at?
Okay, but I just wanted to mention something you were saying about magicians and people, when they're really good at what they do, they've probably had lifetimes of understanding. Remember the guy that was incredible at karate and was in all those movies? What was Brian Lee? No.
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, that's it. Okay, Bruce Lee used to say, you have to imagine yourself. I don't exactly remember the word, words.
As the water becomes
water. He became water, and that's why he was so fluid. Okay, that's what this Matt fellow did. For lifetimes, he understood the way things really work, because the king of cups, when he's well aspected, is an incredible magician and somebody who understands the magic of the world and how it really works, not what literally you think it is happening. So he knows around the matrix. He knows we've been trapped in a matrix. He knows how to get around it to some degree, and that's why he's placed where he's placed this lifetime. So, and why he was so good at it, according to what I was getting there. So what a cool guy. Thanks for introducing us. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. I'm sure we'll do it sometime in the future again. He's amazing. Matt's brilliant. From the position that he's come from, and just to be standing up as he's done, he's a true warrior, and it makes so much sense the reveal you've got on the cards with him. And talking again of magicians, the magician is 57, England, Tesla 57. And then you talked about magicians, you made it plural with an S. That takes you to 76. 76 comes to contact, as in, contact beyond this world. My first name, Thomas, is 76. But this is really interesting. So President Trump talks about a magic wand. He says, I guess we have a magic wand. A magic wand is 76, which is magicians. And then you brought up Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee talked about the water. And water is the mirror reflection of 76. So 67 water, 76 magicians. So that's a nice mirror there you got on that one. But yeah, what some of the things that you've seen in the last few days that we could maybe have a look at? or go through it again.
Well, there's all that decoding going on by that Australian decoder. I can't remember the letters, FCB or FBC, I can't remember. And he's a decoder. And he's from Australia, and he's on Rumble. And I've been sharing his videos because he's decoding a lot of things, like he's into the 17th letter of the alphabet, kind of decodes. And he's really looking at this weekend and maybe even Friday night being the big tweet that we're waiting for, or very soon, let's say, and that he believes it was already told to us because of mirroring, like you were saying, because of number mirroring with those from that drop board, let's just call it, from that 17th letter place. They would drop these, you know, in it, drop info, we'll just say that. And he codes it, and he's putting it as Friday is actually New Year's Eve in the old calendar, and Saturday's New Year's Day. So he's thinking that night. Yeah, anyway, it's pretty interesting. So I'd like to just have a look at this weekend for the viewing audience and just see, is that is something crazy gonna go down, or do we have to wait a little longer? What's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 2 10s around it, but these were the first 2 that I pulled. So we're going to see a lot more military activity, or there could even be a reason why they step out more in the open. And we're really close to that already. So we've got that 9. So there's a lot of things happening around the world that could trigger this in various different areas. Well, but this is our good military stepping into situations that look dangerous somehow. This is in the past, so another 10. So and I have a 10 below it too. So when you have 2 10s, you know that you're at the end of, so the plays. I think they're out of the chessboard moves. I think that last move's upon us, okay? And we've got the justice card in the middle. Justice, so people being called to justice. Somebody is going to get their justice in the public. So I'm thinking we can expect at least somebody to get publicly accused of something. And we know that they've been gearing up towards that with the person that they're calling the B guy, Mr. B, I call him, in US. So the guy parading around as a certain important figure in front of the Dems. Okay, so that guy. Okay, but we know he's a puppet and or at least a mask. Okay, so see that 8? Okay, so I don't know if it's this weekend that it all happens, but it's setting it up to happen quickly after this weekend. So something sets up, but I don't think it's exactly the crescendo this weekend. I think it's the setup towards the crescendo. So it's like part of the, because we know that in these kind of situations, the WAR kind of spiritual thing that's going on, we know that it's all about, things have to go down in a certain sequence.
Yes.
So it feels like they're setting up a sequence that leads to the thing itself. I'm not getting the crescendo itself.
That's what I was going to ask about that because, and also just a couple of points. You mentioned again the military, and when Matt was on, he asked the question about military operation or another type of operation. I wonder if there's maybe some soft disclosure on that, because military operation is the same numbers as 220. It's the same as Operation Warp Speed. President Trump spoke about that, and that was to do with what Matt was alluding to about the products, etc. But we know there's also a President Trump version of that, a good version of it. So I wonder if there's some disclosure on that. The other thing you keep getting about money in military is currency is 107, which is also the word for military, 107, which is also warp speed. But yeah, the sequence of events, because I don't know, would they play a blinder and let all the new money come into the world under a Biden regime? That doesn't seem, I guess on basic logic, that doesn't seem the case that would work. But hey, the White Hats can kind of produce any kind of magical outcomes, and I wonder, are we still on track for that, to see you know, Biden crash things like the stock market. President Trump said it ages ago, said if he gets in power, you know, the stock market will crash under Biden, and we haven't obviously seen that as yet, or not visually. It's not, you know, there's not a public consensus throughout the world that the stock market has crashed under Biden.
Yeah. So as you're saying that, I'm pulling cards, and I do get it. In, like you said, it's not visual, but it's absolutely already happened.
Okay.
It already happened. Okay, so that's part of the movie, and that's people don't like hearing that, and I get it. They don't like hearing that. They don't want to sit through a movie about it. Okay, but I believe that happened quite a long time ago, and there's all these agreements made. So this can, when you're talking about politics, this card comes up. You're talking about agreements in the back channels. So they've agreed on things, a sequence of events of things, and I think you're right. It wouldn't be good for Mr. T to come back sitting and then all of that happen and go down. They are going to take out those things first. So that's maybe why there's a setup this weekend, it looks like. And we know that even that 17th letter is not going to tell us exactly when something's happening. So maybe they even decode to get you ready, but they're going to do it when you least expect. That's just the feeling I get. They're not going to tell you exactly, because you can be sure there's dark hat decoders doing the same thing. So maybe they're planting decode misinfo off a little here because they need these guys to be off the track. I don't know. I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe they'd actually tell you, or you'd actually be able to figure it out. We're all going to be surprised.
Yeah, as with so much of this. Earlier in this read that you're doing, you mentioned that, I think you said yes at some point. You probably did, and yes is 49, but yes is also crash 49. But at the time I was thinking about this, I had a question about the two cryptocurrencies. So XLM, Ripple, and XRP. Sorry, correction. XLM Stellar, and then XRP Ripple. And XLM is 49, which is yes, which is crash. But if you add them together, if you do XRP, Ripple, XRP is 58, Nasara, Ripple 76, a magic wand, add that together, that's 134. But then if you do XLM, it's also called Stellar, Stellar's Truth, 87. XLM is yes, crash. But you put those together, that's 136, Great Awakening. But if you add them, all of them together, it comes to 270, which comes to 2023. And I'm just wondering, would we see, because you get a lot of reads about the financial system improving for people and wealth and gold, etc. One's backed by gold, the XRP and the Ripple, and XLM, Stellar is backed by silver. Are we going to see in 270, 2023, are we going to see something, a jump with these two major cryptos? Could we look at that?
So say the two again.
So XRP, or XRP Ripple, and XLM Stellar. XRP Ripple's gold, XLM Stellar is silver backed.
They're going to use at least one of those for something in a really practical way. That's a really practical, careful way. One of those is going to be used in a really practical way, almost like guiding us or taking us somewhere. Surrender to, but it could get looking bad before it gets better. So we're going to have to also take a dip. There's going to be a tip, a death and a rebirth.
Yeah.
A death and a rebirth. So you might see, and it's probably already been happening, where it goes really low and then it'll have to come up from there. But I don't get it. I get it rebirths. It doesn't stay down, because the outcome is strength. What'll give it strength is it gets used by the new system coming in. So they pick up at least one of those. I'm not sure which one, or maybe both, but I didn't get which one, if it is just one of them. And we've got this. Yeah, I feel like there's something else totally different happening in the background that that could change, and they pick one of those up and use it for the new system. And it feels like in a really practical way with that card. So it's going to be a practical part of the new system and lead people to something. I don't know what I mean by that, because I don't actually study cryptos. Don't honestly know much about them. I just read on it.
What's that?
I just read on them.
Yeah. Another thing that's interesting about it is so XRP 58 Jasara, XLM 49. That's 107. That comes to currency, comes to quantum, comes to trumps, comes to military, comes to Aquarius. But then there's another one called XDC, which is based on copper, I believe, as the backer of it. And that, from what I can tell, doesn't seem to have another name like Ripple or Stellar. Maybe there is. People can put in the comments. But XDC is 31. But if you do XRP, XLM plus XDC, that comes to 138, which comes to Donald Trump, which comes to revaluation. So I wonder if maybe we can look just a little deeper. Are these crypto coins, are they part of the revaluation going further, including this new one, well, not new, but the one I just mentioned, XDC? Seems to, in the numbers, XRP, XLM plus XDC seen together seem to form revaluation, or at least part of the revaluation, because I'd imagine there's other things. Ace.
That's a yes.
Yes.
And it's something they're using. This guy builds on a firm foundation. So he's building something. He's building a foundation for something and making something work better.
Okay.
He's tweaking things. Okay. And he's polishing them off. So I feel like they might need some tweaking to get them. So they might, like, I feel like the new system, because an ACE is creative too, and a newness, they might use them in a new way, or back them with something, or take them and utilize something that's in place already with them. But that's a yes.
Excellent.
I think we only got time for one more though, Tom, because I got to get running.
Yeah, cool. All right, Janine, we'll wrap up with one more question. So I'll put them all in together. So yesterday I asked the question via the chat with you and Mark Atwood. I asked about Gianluca Vialli, an Italian footballer, and so he just announced that he died. Matt actually played in a friendly game with him, and he's one of the only players, well, one of the not many players that he swapped shirts with. So players at the end of the game, if they like, support each other, they'll swap shirts. So Matt posted that. It would have been nice to talk to him about it here, but it might be sensitive in terms of the football community. So maybe it's best we do it now. So you said that Vialli's gone into witness protection, that he was a nice guy. I've met him and he was a nice guy, and everyone's saying how nice he was. Shane Warne, Matt also used to know Shane Warne, the cricketer that we've done reads on before. And he went into witness protection from the reads we did a number of times last year. And you also got Diamond and Silk. You said she went into witness protection. A general question about witness protection. Are we going to start to see some of these stars, these well-known people, whether it's sport, movies, music, even in the truth community, are we going to start to see them coming back in 2023, or are we looking further into further years down the line when we start to see that?
Yeah, we will see that.
Okay.
8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not all at the same time. And the 10 is, so some of them might agree to come out at different times. And the 10 is ending, so the facade. So you're ending, 10s are ending something, and in this case, a facade. So we're ending the facade of that so in other words, a lot of other truths will have to come out first before people are ready to know that people they thought and grieved for are actually still around. That's actually probably going to be difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can imagine it was. It will be. You know what's just triggered that card with the 8 with the swords? That was it earlier on. Sorry, the wands. So the 8. So that's the card I think you pulled a few earlier on, and made me think of the word yes, because you said 8. So when you spell the word 8, EIGHT, that comes to 49, which comes to yes. And it's interesting you pulled that. You said it's an 8 and you went yes. So that's what I got earlier. That's what I was thinking. So a good reminder there. Thanks, Janine. It's been great. It's always a pleasure. And that was great to do the show with Matt. So thank you for that. We should have done this at the beginning, but how can people find you? Do you want to let people know about the tvj.com, where they can find you in other places?
So when we say TBJ, you have to go long form on that. We just can't say it. on YouTube. They get, even though they allow all those bootleg channels to have my name on there, none of those channels are mine, guys. None of them. I am not on YouTube. They won't even let me get on there. I can't even comment on people's because of my email. But anyway.
I put some old ones up of you and me because I had to do a bit of housekeeping, so I'm putting them back up. So
oh, good.
people,
good.
you get the swarm going, oh, it's not, and it's like, no, it's me. I'm in the show.
It's really me.
My channel, you know.
But they do take the, even I've seen you in my shows with some weird
I've seen that.